Vinoo Varghese is here to help us understand what this all means. He's a Wall Street criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. Thank you for your time. Let's begin to unpack this, because how do these new charges and adding a new co-defendant change this case, if at all?
I don't think it really changes that much. What it does is it makes for great headlines, right? You're covering it, everyone's covering it, everybody's writing about it. It's a potential, one side will say it's a potential another nail in the coffin for Donald Trump. The thing that causes me, it makes me wonder is, why did you bring an indictment if your investigation wasn't complete? They should have been able to include this as part of their original indictment. Now, prosecutors can supersede, as you called it, it's called a superseding indictment, even up to trial. But in a case like this, when you're dealing with the former president, the leading candidate for president currently, why would you not have this done already? And it makes me wonder, is their case as airtight as it's been portrayed? My feeling is that it probably isn't.
Okay, so you think it's an issue of whether or not this is airtight? Because I was going to say, what do you think is the reason behind the superseding, indictment? If you have an answer to that question or suspicion.
So that means the reason they superseded the indictment is that they didn't complete their investigation before initially charging Donald Trump. If they had completed their investigation, they would have included this with the original charges. They didn't do that. It means their investigation is ongoing. So the question is, why are they bringing charges against Donald Trump without having completed their investigation? Right. And what I'm saying is, I think that indicates that there's a problem with their case if they're trying to pile on things as this case moves along.
Okay, I was like, is there any other reason? But I'm picking up on what you're putting down. The special counsel's added indictment includes specific quotes from De Oliveira saying, quote, the boss wanted the security camera server deleted, along with alleged details of Nada and him going through private areas where cameras and surveillance footage is stored. And then the indictment refers to an unidentified employee. How significant could that person become?
Very significant. Or significant. It's someone that could be potentially already cooperating with the government, or they hope to have cooperate with the government. The goal of charging these two individuals and mentioning a third is to instill fear in them in the hopes that they will flip on the Donald and go testify against him. And so that's why they're charging them, because they want to put the pressure on these two to give up the big fish. There's no bigger fish than Donald Trump. So that's what the government is trying to do here. It'll be interesting to see whether they'll be successful. In most cases, they usually are, because it's too much pressure on people to have to fight the government. Most people don't have the resources to do so. But what could be going on behind the scenes is some type of joint defense agreement between Trump and these lawyers for these guys. So there's a lot of things that are still up in the air. But having seen these kind of things, it's clearly to get these guys to flip on Donald Trump.
I see. Well, I was going to ask you, how much of this new indictment do you think it's like the special counsel's strategy when it comes to exactly that? Do you think it's more so strategy in addition to potentially, that this is just a result of the ongoing investigation?
Well, most likely they approached these people before and tried to get them to cooperate against Donald Trump. Clearly somebody is, right? Somebody's giving information to the government about Donald Trump and saying that he directed them to do these things. So they're obviously cooperators already. And so they probably approached these two individuals, the first one charged with Trump and the one yesterday, Oliveira, and tried to get him to flip. And when he did it, then they brought the hammer down, as they call it, which is a charge. Now, it really will depend on what kind of fortitude, intestinal fortitude, the Oliveira has and the other employee have, and this potential other person who hasn't been named yet. Yeah. If they have fortitude and they have the resources, then this can play out for a while. If not, they'll flip and cooperate against Donald Trump and, presumably make their case stronger, or perhaps they're not as, it really concerns me that they didn't charge everything at the beginning. On regular cases, run-of-the-mill defendants, Sure, that's the way the government operates. They're trying to figure things out as they go along. But this is Donald Trump. I mean, when you come at the king, you best not miss.
I was going to say, what is the concern? And you're like, you got one shot. You got to just do it all in one fell swoop. As you're describing this, it's really coming from the perspective of, the prosecution. I'm curious, from put the defense attorney hat on with this new added indictment, new co-defendant. From a defense perspective, does this change anything strategy-wise around that?
Look, you can arguably yes. So you can say, oh man, this is more stuff that we've got to deal with. This is just, more problems for our client if I were his lawyers. On the flip side, their press people, their PR people have already responded in a way that I think was the right way to respond, and that this is a desperate act to shore up a very weak indictment. I mean, those are powerful statements. And that's when somebody who has the resources and has the right PR crew, they said what they needed to say in response. Now, what will happen is that they're going to get the discovery, which is the evidence, and you'll make an assessment of whether the government has the goods or they don't. And if they do have the goods, then potentially at that point, well, you're going to ethically, the attorneys for Trump will have to say to him, look, if we go to trial, the chances are that you will get convicted and you could see jail time. In order to avoid that, perhaps we try something else or a lesser charge. There's a whole bunch there are too many things to potentially go through in this short segment. But yes, I mean, this does affect them. It's never good to have additional charges, but if they are, but the way that I look at it is maybe this just exposes that there's a larger problem with their case.
Yeah, interesting. Criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Vinoo Varghese, thank you so much for your time and insight. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.